Another factor coming into the season is we have Dom Ducharme at the helm consistently. He's going through a full training camp now with his team, getting to implement his style of play, his systems into this squad. He's also hired Trevor Letowski, his own guy, someone he coached with Team Canada in the World Juniors, someone he's familiar with. I absolutely love that he was able to bring in his own assistant coach, and he's confident that he's going to help these young players. And I also love that Trevor Letowski is a former NHL player. He played center for many years, put up some decent numbers as well for a few different teams. So this is a guy that the young kids will respect in terms of the fact that he's been there before. And I think that's important to have when you have got a roster of some skilled young kids. It's not an old talking head that's just been, behind the bench and not played at the highest level. I think this could really work out, and I like the look that we're going with behind the bench. Again this year, Luke Richardson is a very strong coach, did a great job filling in for Dom during the playoffs. And then, of course, there's Alex Burrows, and I'm loving the changes he is making with this Habs power play. Making sure there is support all over the ice, making sure these guys are moving their feet, making quick passes, staying in triangle formations and all through the zone. And I sincerely think, in general, as a whole, this Montreal Canadiens roster, with the additions we've brought in, the types of players we brought in, is going to thrive under a Dom Ducharme and Alex Burrows-led offense. And I cannot wait to watch it throughout this season. Now let's go through the injuries we have to start the season, and then we'll go through the lineups. I'll go from least severe to most. We've got Cole Caufield dealing with some sort of upper body injury due to something happened in the warm-ups of one of their scrimmages here recently. Out approximately a week, so sigh relief, big time. Then Carey Price, of course, he's still recovering from his knee surgery, but he's expected to be ready for the regular season. Mike Hoffman injured himself in one of his last times on the ice during his off-season training. He's going to miss about 4 weeks. I think it's survivable considering the depth that we have on offense, and inserting him a month into the schedule is going to be a big boost to this team's offense, especially the power play. Then there is Paul Byron, who had hip surgery. He'll be out for 4 months or 5 months or so. Now, he's a very important part of this team. He's a leader, and he's usually a permanent fixture. And this team typically does very well with him in the lineup, plays with a good pace, strong defensively, one of our best penalty killers, and one of our best finishers in tight when he can break loose. So he is a loss, but again, survivable because of the Habs depth. And I'm sure one or two of these guys were likely brought in due to his absence. And of course, there's young guys waiting in the wings ready to go too. So I think we're all good so far to start this season, knock on wood. So let's go through the lineup quickly here. I totally expect the Suzuki, Toffoli, and Caufield line to stay together, at least for a good portion of the beginning of the season. We saw what they did in the playoffs. Suzuki is going to take some important matchups for this team this season, and I totally believe he's ready for it. He was just as crucial to our team defensively down the middle as Phil Deneau was in our playoff run. This guy's ready to play big minutes. He has been playing big minutes in big situations. Can't wait for it. Cole Caufield, the expectations for him, I don't know how to gauge where they're at. I'd be happy if the kid gets 20. He's skilled enough to get 30. I think Trevor Zegras, his former teammate, said he could score 40, if I'm not mistaken. But I just can't wait to watch him play. He's a prospect that this Canadiens franchise hasn't had in a long time. And the pure offensive ability and instinct and finishing quality that he has on his tool belt is it's something else, and I cannot wait for it. And then you got Tyler Toffoli, the veteran winger. You know what you're going to get out of him, 25, 30 goals, and he's a perfect complement to these young kids. Not only that, Toffoli is one of Dom's favorite wingers to use. He is very strong 5-on-5 and defensively as well, playing a big role on our penalty kill. You go down to the second line, and you have Christian Dvorak, who is very capable of taking those big matchups as well, winning some big draws. He's typically well over 50% in the face-off dot, and he's already starting to impress with the Habs. 4 points in his preseason debut, including finishing off a disgusting tic-tac-toe play on the power play, with Drouin getting the primary assist as well. And Dvorak just does what he's been doing the last couple years, getting in that slot area, finding open space, planting a stick on the ice, and finishing plays near the net. He did it there, and then he just did not celebrate, and It's going to be hard to get used to because the dude is literally stone-faced when he scores a goal. And it's because he knows he's just going to do it again in the near future. Him and Drouin are starting to build chemistry already. Could there be some growing pains? Maybe. But Johnny Drew looks focused, and I am going to be cheering this guy on the whole way. Imagine he has a breakout season, the difference that would make to this Habs top six. It would be just exhilarating. And Josh Anderson complimenting them as well. A very rare breed of player in the NHL to be as big as he is, 6'3", 230, and can be one of the fastest players, if not the fastest on your team, even faster than Paul Byron, who's 5'10", is wildly impressive. He finishes his checks, and it's not just his ability to streak down the wing, break past a guy wide and score in tight, but his speed also allows him to win a lot of battles and get to pucks very quickly. And that was huge for us in the playoffs, and I'm sure that's going to continue. He punishes the opposing D on the forecheck, just punishes them. Oh, man. David Savard, former teammate of him, is now very happy to now be back on his team, to say the least. We go down to the third line and Jake Evans, and I'm absolutely loving the development of Jake Evans these last couple years here. It's been really fun and encouraging and impressive to watch him play the game of hockey and play it the right way and give it his all every night. Montreal has done a really good job of providing these young kids, the mentors they need to truly become professionals, and it's working. You can see it in the likes of Nick Suzuki, in the likes of Cole Caufield, in the likes of Jake Evans and Romanov, who we'll get into shortly. But Jake Evans, very sound defensive center, very good in the face-off dot too. And to be that early in his NHL career and be that experienced and good at winning those draws, very impressive. He should only get better in that sense as well. I would expect that Mike Hoffman, when he's healthy, will be paired on this line. He could provide some depth scoring in the top nine. Playing with Jake Evans, who will use his speed to create space. Hoffman can be a trigger man for him. Hoffman is not a defensive player. We don't need him to be a defensive player. This team is loaded with responsible defensive wingers. It is refreshing that we finally have a guy who can just score and is one of the best finishers in the league. It's going to make such a big difference on this team's power plays, especially Hoffman one side, Caufield the other, and then someone quarterbacking it at the point, and a strong bumper in Dvorak as well to mix in there. So, oh man, it's going to be so refreshing to not be that defensive, clog the neutral zone only team anymore. I'm sure they're going to do a bit of that because they're a smart hockey team. But to have all these goal scorers up and down the lineup will be a treat. And then over to the right, you have Brendan Gallagher, another guy capable of 30 goals. This team could potentially have 6 players in their forward group who score 20 plus goals. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, Tyler Toffoli, Christian Dvorak, Josh Anderson, Brendan Gallagher. I mean, Armia could even be capable of 20. Hoffman as well. Like, this is, in my lifetime, I haven't seen this much offensive power, shooting power on a Habs team. And as much as Brendan Gallagher's biggest strengths are to win battles, score big goals at any cost, I can see him seizing this opportunity to increase his leadership role on this team. He has always had a strong head on his shoulders. He's great with the media. He's a workhorse on the ice, leads by example, and will continue to. I have no doubt. And I'm looking forward to seeing him develop as a leader and take a bigger role in that sense. And I would love, eventually, when the time comes, for it to be him that maybe takes the reins as captain of this team. But there is no shortage of leaders on this team regardless. Now, before I get into the fourth line here, I should mention, while Mike Hoffman is out, I expect it to be Yoel Armia who slides up into the lineup. Dom Ducharme seems to love utilizing him anytime he can. And I think he sees the underlying offensive instincts and ability that Yoel Armia has and just hasn't quite fully unlocked yet. So that's who I would expect to slide up. But this fourth line, there's a battle going on for the fourth line center spot in training camp between Cedric Paquette and Ryan Poehling. And it's going to be hard for Ryan to beat out the veteran in Cedric Paquette here, who's strong in the face-off dot. We don't know how Ryan Poehling will handle that consistently in the NHL yet. But who knows? Maybe his spot on the roster is going to be secured here through training camp. We'll have to wait and see. I know he's capable of it. You saw me rank him number 1 on my prospect list. I think he's ready for it. But, he's got to prove it first. we could also see him and Paquette kind of sharing fourth line C duties as well. Now, to their left, Arturi Lehkonen. Perfect guy to have on your fourth line. The 5-on-5 ability, his skating, his size, his ability to forecheck, win battles, and he's always in the right place. Always. I mean, to have him on your fourth line, that is some very strong depth. And he's one of our best penalty killers as well. Now, same goes for Yoel Armia, who's got a nasty shot. He can score some big goals when you need him. His puck protection is off the charts. His ability to just win these battles and then hold onto the puck and sometimes just dance through one or two players to get into open space. Little more consistency we'll have to see from Yoel Armia, but another guy who can slide up and down the lineup if you need him to. And then, of course, there's Matthew Perreault, another player, just like Armia, slide up and down the lineup. And despite being typically a bottom six player, he's been scoring goals the last few years. I already mentioned that, and I'm sure he'll do just the same thing for his home province team. But let's get into the defense here. I would totally expect Joel Edmondson and Petrie to remain a pair. They're going to experiment through training camp here, but they were just so good together last season. And I see these guys as being the true Montreal Canadiens top pair this year. Jeff Petrie played last season for about halfway through as a Norris caliber defenseman. Not just offense, but he had it all. Defensive ability, transition ability, offensive zone play, big goals, snipes from the point. And he's coming into the season healthy. He's going to be fun to watch. Joel Edmondson was an absolutely crucial part of the Canadiens' decor in the playoff run. Very rarely ever made a mistake, except for that nasty one in the cup final. So yeah, I mean, another luxury defenseman to have. And then below those two guys, we have a couple defense pairs that, one can play top four one night and the other can play top four the next. And they can share the responsibility of sometimes being the bottom pair guys, because both pairs have veteran presence. They have good enough puck movement, not the greatest, but good enough. And they're very responsible defensemen and seasoned players as well on each line. So you got David Savard. I've already talked about him and how vicious he is and how strong he is defensively. I could see him being paired up with Alex Romanov. I could see them complementing each other good, especially if you're hoping that Romanov takes a step forward in terms of his puck movement. And I'm hoping they give him a bit of a longer leash to experiment and make some of the plays that he was trying to make early in the season last year and often succeeded. But I don't know if they reined him back in or what, but I'm really hoping to see an offensive boost. Nothing crazy, because he's not really known as an offensive player, but at least a little bit more involved in the puck transition up the ice and some of the more crucial plays in the O-zone as well. So then you have Brett Kulak, and I love this player. Absolutely love this player. He's typically been a strong D partner for Jeff Petrie, but I think he could complement Ben Sherratt very well. And this Habs team and coaching staff love to utilize Ben Sherratt. He led us in ice time a good portion of the playoffs, along with Weber and Edmondson. Big, huge physical presence, very hard to play against, loves to protect his goalie, clear the slot, nasty in the corners. This is what I'm talking about. Montreal has a bunch of guys that are able to do this, and that's going to be what makes the loss of Shea Weber survivable. And I truly believe Kulak and Sherratt can be a strong pair as well. And then, of course, you have Chris Weidman, who can come in and play with Ben Sherratt as well. And that's another pair that's very balanced. You have the stay-at-home Sherratt, and then Weidman, who's a smaller, faster puck mover. So that could work very well too. It's unproven. So we have to see how they come together and how they can gel and execute once this regular season starts and the games really matter, and once they're paired together and stay together for a significant amount of time. And then, of course, in net, we have Carey Price. Don't need to spend too much time talking about him. We know the presence, the impact that he has on this team in all facets of the game. On the ice, off the ice, but specifically on the ice. I mean, he does everything at an elite level. And Marc Bergevin has said the goal is to get him consistent through the regular season. That's why Stéphane Waite was let go. And we got Sean Burke running a goaltending department now for Montreal. So hopefully we see that happen, because last season, stretches of very strong elite hockey, and then some stretches that were definitely not so great. But luckily, we have a team now that can pick up for him and actually score enough goals to make him not have to be lights out every single night. It's a bit of a change of mentality and approach to this team that even me as a Habs fan, I'm having a hard time getting used to. But I would love to see Carey Price be consistent through the regular season, and regardless, I mean, he's going to make his impact. He's going to have a lot of starts. He's going to get some points. He's going to get some wins. And then there's Jake Allen behind him, who statistically outplayed Price last year and is a key piece to this team now. What Price did to save him through the expansion draft was just selfless and I think very important to this team's success. And because of what Price did, I think this team has a really good chance. One of the best things you can have now in this NHL is a strong goaltending duo. I think Carey Price realized that and saw how strong of a partner Jake was. It was the perfect type of partner. He wanted a veteran. He didn't have to, hold his hand. He didn't have to, mentor. He didn't have, he's got his guy. And Jake Allen's a very sound goalie, calm in net, veteran poise, strong positionally. He does it all. And it's a treat to go into games, regardless of who's starting, knowing you're going to get a strong performance. Something else, we have the Olympics this season, and Carey Price is the obvious choice to be Canada's number one goaltender. And there's some people not so sure it's the best option for him, for the Montreal Canadiens, for him to go to that tournament. But what I can tell you right now is if Price wants to go to that tournament, he will be going to that tournament. I suspect that he will want to go and represent his country. And you know what? I have no problem with it. Could it have a negative impact on our season? Maybe. Could it tire him out? Maybe. But we have a strong backup in Jake Allen, who's essentially a 1B anyway. So we have the ability to make up for a fatigued Carey Price if we have to. The other thing is, Canada is a powerhouse in all aspects, but especially defensively. He's not going to have to save the day for Team Canada on most nights anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it. Carey Price is in tip-top shape, and it'll be a treat to watch him in the Olympics, and it's not too often you get to. I remember being a kid in it, being Marty Brodeur, who was always the guy, and it's just really cool that Carey Price has been the guy for Canada for this long, and I'm excited to see what he does in another Olympics coming up here soon. Now quickly, as for how the power play is going to line up, I'm sure Drouin is going to be a key piece to that, playing one of the half walls. He could get a chance again to QB a power play up at the point in the umbrella formation. We've seen Chris Weidman there so far. That's what Gustafsson was doing for us in the playoffs last year, and in the playoffs, And Caufield, of course, is likely going to be either a bumper, which is that slot area where you can take a pass and one time it from in the slot, or you can just take the pass quick and bump it back to the half wall. Caufield is good in that position. He's also good at playing on the half wall as well. And then Hoffman, he'll be a guy who just lines up in the dot, tries to one time essentially, or just find open space where he can walk into a shot and snipe it. I could see, with Shea Weber being out, Petry's going to have a big role here. I think Shea Weber being out opens up a lot of minutes for some of these defensemen in general. And I think, as much as I love Shea Weber, the last couple of years on the power play haven't been the greatest. So in terms of, that hole he leaves, I hate to say it, it's almost more addition by subtraction. Jeff Petry could get an enhanced role there. Ben Sherratt has a good shot from the point. Edmondson actually does as well. So there's some options there if you want a trigger man, a defenseman who has a very powerful shot towards the net. There's options. But another one, Dvorak. This is a player whose bread and butter is that slot area, playing that bumper position, and very responsible, good puck mover on the power play. But most importantly, he can finish in that area. Very sneaky and sly player in the slot. Doesn't matter. Low slot, high slot. He can deflect it. He can pick up the loose pucks. He can snipe. He can one time. He can dangle a goalie quick. He can backhand it. He's got a sick backhander from in tight. The guy can do it all, and he's very comfortable in doing so. And Nick Suzuki is another option of a player who can quarterback one of our power play units. He loves to receive that puck up towards the blue line and have space to be deceptive with it. Either walk in and go for a no-look pass, or walk in and wire wrister, bar down. It's up to him what he wants to do, and he's damn good at doing it. So this power play is going to be exciting this year, and I'm seeing the differences already with how Alex Burrows is running it.